welcome back everyone. It's Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, here with another hero breakdown video. I know it's been a little while since I've done one of these, and you can actually thank a Discord player named Barris Fueler for suggesting I do this video. I had intended to do this one for a while because as an infantry main, I planned on covering all the infantry commanders, and Adut is one of the more powerful ones. That being said, I'm going to break this down in my usual fashion, where I will go over their skills, ways that they're used in combat, a good talent tree build for them, and what commanders you compare with them in order to get the most out of this commander. Now, I'm going to start off by saying that Adut for an infantry main is immensely powerful. However, if you are not an infantry main, for reasons I'll explain later in the video, she's not going to be one of the commanders you want to focus on. Because infantry tends to have a very specific job, and she does not do that job very well. But let's explain what's going on here and start with her skills. First skill, fairly standard, deals damage to a target 12,000 and increases your squad's defense by 30% for 3 seconds. The 30% for 3 seconds is fairly powerful, but having a 12,000 damage factor on her is going to be pretty nuts. And she is one of the more powerful infantry commanders. The only other infantry commander that hits harder than her is Charlie, and his requires multiple targets to do. Adut hits a single target for pretty decent damage. There are definitely some rider and range commanders that hit harder, but this is substantial on an infantry commander. Skill number 2 increases infantry squad's attack by 5.5, up to 11% every 5 seconds until 44%. 44% buff to infantry attack is insane. It is the highest buff I've seen so far. At least one of the highest buffs I've seen so far. And yes, you have to wait about 20 seconds of combat in order to get the most use out of her. But you'll find pretty quickly, especially in group combat situations, that getting to that 20 seconds isn't as difficult as it sounds. And to have her get consistently more and more powerful as the fight goes on is just icing on the cake. Being an infantry commander, she's not going to be targeted as fervently as some of the ranged or debuff commanders in the game, so she will have lasting power on the field for that alone. So you're going to get great damage out of her. Skill number 3 increases infantry squad's travel speed by up to 30%, and if a damage reduction debuff is active on your squad, there is a 50% chance to nullify the debuff and heal your squad for 4,400. Notice how there's no timer on this. That means anytime this activates, she can get a nice heal from it, a 50-50 chance to heal herself and nullify the debuff. There are quite a few commanders in this game that debuff damage. For example, reduces target's damage by 15%. Each time his skill hits, there's a 50% chance it won't work, and Adut will heal herself. I believe Thunder also has a damage reduction. Or is his an attack reduction? Yeah, his is an attack reduction. There are a few other commanders in the game that reduce damage, but it's not going to be as effective as you want it to be. But I do like the fact that they didn't put a timer on it. So if there's multiple Toms on the field that are hitting Adut or anywhere near Adut, she can get a nice little heal and have a bit more staying power than you would expect. Now, that infantry squad travel speed is pretty good. Infantry is known to be very slow, and having the ability to hunt down weaker riders or ranged commanders that may not have those travel speed buffs is very nice. She's good at finishing off weaker enemies towards the end of a group fight. So having that additional speed will allow her to hunt those people down. This is where it gets a little ridiculous for me. Increases infantry squad attack by 40% if the remaining squad size is greater than 50% while battling on the world map. Infantry commanders are generally garrison commanders. She is locked to being in the field. However, these are additive. That is an 84% increase to attack if she is 20 seconds in combat and still has over 50% health. Those numbers start to stack up pretty well. And if she gets down below 50%, it switches from an attack increase to a defense increase. Now, I personally have not tested if it is only an infantry defense, because notice how it is left out of this line. Also, this section is also left out of the last part. Now, when she's down below 50%, you're probably going to want to back her out anyway, because that's when she'll start being targeted. But it's nice to know that if you do decide to back her out of combat, she has 40% increased defense while she's walking away. Couples really nicely with the 30% travel speed increase to get you out of the fight without losing too many troops. She is an open field commander. Now, her awakened skill is a new skill. It's not an addition to another skill. Upon receiving skill damage, reduces your squad and up to 5 nearby ally squads damage received by 20% for 2 seconds. Can be triggered once every 6 seconds. This is really nice, especially in group combat, because skill damage is flying everywhere. Lee, Lewis, some people using a Chemi to slow people down, Charlie's, there's a lot of AoE damage going around. Anytime that she gets it, it's not a chance to trigger, it triggers. So, you likely, once that 6-second timer is up, you're going to activate it again in less than 1 to 2 seconds. So, you and up to 5 nearby allies. That is 6 total squads receiving 20% less skill damage for the next 2 seconds. But that's about a 33% upkeep if it's actually every 6 seconds. A little over 33. A little bit less if it takes a couple of seconds afterwards, but that is a really nice bonus to have for your allies if you do happen to awaken her. Now, we've gone over her skills. If you haven't figured out yet, because of this skill alone, she is an open field infantry commander. A couple of ways I have seen her used, interestingly enough, is in counter rallies, where it does count as battling on the world map. She also makes a fairly good rally commander for infantry troops. There is a slight problem with that. I'll explain that later. But it is an option for infantry mains to be able to use a commander for rallies and be able to have a pretty substantial damage buff on top of it. So, open field, counter rallies, maybe a bit of rallying. I like to do that in Pompeii. But that's how I use her. Talent builds, she comes with the skill tree, and on an infantry commander, that basically leans her in towards damage. So, do it. Get the most out of your skill damage. Make sure that it's popping off as much as possible. Get those rage buffs. And then once you've gotten... I don't like taking additional damage. She's primarily dealing single target damage, and I don't want to take additional AoE damage just to boost her skill damage a little bit, if that makes sense. Now, if she was an AoE damage dealer, and you have this option, but that's just me. Always come up here for infantry guard if you have the infantry tree, especially on commanders who are only going to be leading infantry squads. This 10% chance to reduce damage taken by 20% for 2 seconds, it's going to trigger a lot more than you think. I personally picked the increased squad basic damage by 2% because of how I use her, but there are options for those 4 points. You can stick them over here. You can come down and get some additional squad attack for overall. And then you have these 2 points, and then you can stick them in whatever you feel like boosting: attack, HP, defense, travel speed. You have options. This one is a travel speed bonus. Having an additional 9% might be helpful, but I prefer a little bit more combat power. So this is my talent tree for her at level 60. Now, I'm going to show you my arena team in order to explain why I do this. And it's because of this. I pair Adut with Charlie. Because, one, Charlie is the only other infantry commander that boosts attack power by as much as he does. It increases infantry squad attack by 12%. This puts, once combat is fully rolling, at an infantry squad attack of close to 100%. On top of this amazing rage generation and hitting enemies for 20,000 damage factor if you're hitting 5, which, if you're in the open field, you're hitting 5. I love the fact that I can get 250 rage off of this, get this nice amount of damage, be able to single out an enemy for massive infantry damage, and keep this squad defense buff up close to, I believe I have her down to a 7-second skill cycle, which means I'm close to 50% uptime on this squad defense buff, on top of an almost 100% infantry attack bonus. Now, some other options. I have seen Adut paired with Martin. However, I personally feel that there are better pairs. Boosting infantry attack by as much as you can, and then taking full advantage of this 40% damage dealt from his skill factor does make for some decent healing if you're trying to spread the healing out of your commanders. I have seen Thunder, Tom, and Martin be split up into 3 different teams in order to have healing on 3 different teams. You can also pair Adut with Tom. Tom has, again, okay damage factor for his active skill. He's also got this nice damage factor here, which is affected by infantry attack power, and gives a lot more potent healing factor for Adut to keep her on the field longer. Those are my personal options. I don't suggest pairing her with either Adut or with either Thunder or Raigoro, simply because these are the more defensive commanders. And while pairing offense and defense makes for a decent, well-rounded commander, min-maxing is the name of the game, in my opinion. You need to pick a job that you want that commander to do and then lean into it. These two lean out of it. That's my personal opinion on that. Take it how you want to. And with that, that's all I really have to say about Adut. Again, thank you to Barris Fueler from Discord for suggesting I do this video. And if you have any questions about this commander, or questions in general, as well as any content ideas you would like to see in the future, please leave them in the comments below. Also, if you haven't seen my video before, I have set up a Patreon. I am still currently working on a damage calculator for the game, so that you can get an idea of how different buffs stack against each other. And I wanted to make it primarily to better explain how damage is calculated in this game, so you know what stats to focus on. With that, this is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, signing off.